If one of your parents was born between 1946 and 1964, this video is for you, not for them. For the version of you that still, somewhere, is waiting for an apology that might never come. Give me 5 minutes. Because what I'm about to say is the thing your therapist has been circling around for years without quite landing on. Stay until the end. The last 2 minutes reframe everything that came before them. You know the feeling. You're on the phone with your mother, or sitting across from your father at Thanksgiving, and something happens, a comment, a silence, a look, and suddenly, you're not 38 anymore. You're 9. And the room feels exactly as small as it did then. You hang up, you drive home, and you spend the next 3 days replaying it, wondering why you can't just let it go, why it still gets in, why someone who is supposed to know you better than anyone can make you feel, in 30 seconds, like you don't exist. You're not weak. You're not stuck. You're not making it up. What you're experiencing has a name, and understanding it won't just explain your parents, it will explain you. In the 1960s, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby changed how we understand human development. He found that children don't just need food and shelter. They need a specific thing from their caregivers: attunement. The experience of having your emotional state noticed, reflected back, and met without judgment. When that happens consistently, a child's nervous system learns, the world is safe. I am legible. My feelings are real. When it doesn't, when the caregiver goes blank, or redirects, or disappears behind a wall of efficiency, the child's nervous system learns something different. My feelings are dangerous. Make them smaller. Make yourself smaller. This isn't metaphor. Bowlby's work, and decades of research that followed, showed this is a physiological process. The child's stress response system gets calibrated in early relationships. Once calibrated, it runs automatically. For decades, that's what you felt on the phone. Not weakness. A nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Here is what your parents were never taught. Your grandparents survived genuine catastrophe, the Depression, a world war. They built a cultural code around one central belief: feelings are a luxury that serious people cannot afford. So they raised your parents accordingly. They did not sit with their children in difficult emotions. They redirected. They minimized. They acted sometimes as if the feelings had never happened at all. And your parents absorbed something, not as a lesson, but as the shape of reality itself. Love is not something you say. It's something you do. Pain is not something you process. It's something you get past. Asking for emotional support is weakness disguised as need. They didn't choose that belief system. They were installed with it before they were old enough to question it. In the 1990s, researcher Edward Tronick ran a simple experiment. A mother sits across from her infant, warm and responsive. Then, on cue, she goes completely still. Face blank, no reaction, nothing. Within seconds, the baby tries everything. Smiles, points, reaches, every strategy it has to re-engage the person it depends on. And when nothing works, the baby turns inward, withdraws, starts to collapse. Tronick called this the still face experiment. What it showed was that a child doesn't experience emotional absence as neutral. They experience it as catastrophic. Now, your parent was never stone-faced, but something functionally similar happened in the moments that mattered. When you came to them with a feeling that required them to simply sit with you, they experienced something that felt, in their own nervous system, like drowning. They'd never been taught to survive that, so they left. Not physically, always, but they went somewhere else. And you, being a child who needed them, interpreted that departure as information about your worth. My feelings are too much. I am too much. I need to be less. That was not the truth. That was a child's logical conclusion from incomplete data. You have been carrying that conclusion ever since. It shows up in the relationships where you shrink yourself before anyone asks you to. In the way you apologize for things that aren't your fault. In the particular exhaustion of being around people who can't handle emotional honesty, because some part of you is still working to manage their discomfort before your own. It shows up in the moments when someone actually loves you well, openly, without conditions, and something in you doesn't quite trust it, waits for it to be withdrawn. That's not a character flaw. That's a nervous system running old code. Here's the hardest part. Your parents were also children once, standing in their own small kitchen, waiting for someone to sit with them in something difficult. And no one came. Not because they weren't loved, but because the person who loved them most had also never been taught how. The wound you carry is not unique to you. It is 3 generations deep, maybe more. Your grandparents didn't teach your parents emotional presence because no one had taught them. Your parents didn't give you what you needed because they genuinely did not know it was available to give. They thought strength looked like distance. They thought love looked like provision. They were wrong. And they didn't know they were wrong. Both of those things are true at the same time. Forgiving them does not mean deciding it was fine. It was not fine. The loneliness was real. The confusion was real. The years spent chasing approval that kept moving just out of reach. That was real. And it cost you something. And you are allowed to name that cost without guilt. Forgiving them means understanding the mechanism clearly enough that you stop taking it personally. They were not withholding from you specifically. They were giving you everything they had. It just wasn't enough. And the distance between what you needed and what they could give, that gap was not a verdict on your worth. It was the visible edge of their own unhealed wound. You were never the problem. You were a child in a room with someone who had run out of tools. Before you go, one question, not as homework. Think about the last difficult conversation you had with one of your parents, or the last one you've been avoiding. Underneath whatever they said or didn't say, there is a person who is also afraid, who also wonders if they did enough, who also, in some version of 5:30 in the morning, holds a mug with both hands and feels something they were never given the language for. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to pretend the hurt wasn't real. But you might, just might, be the first person in your family line who understands the full shape of it, who can hold the wound and the person who gave it to you in the same thought without collapsing. That's not a small thing. That's the place where the pattern stops. Write one word in the comments. The thing you've been waiting to hear from them. Just one word. Because right now, someone else is watching this video. Someone whose parent said exactly the opposite. And the thing you write might be the thing that finally makes them feel less alone. They weren't making it up. You weren't either.